The Indianapolis crowd was on their feet. The Gainbridge Fieldhouse was shaking. Everything was on the line. It came down to this single moment. Caitlin Clark stood at the free throw line with the season hanging in the balance. The scoreboard read 96-93. 18.9 seconds left in the fourth quarter. One possession. One moment. One chance to change everything. Clark closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. And then she released. The ball left her hands with perfect rotation. Perfect arc, perfect intention. Swish. Then swish again. 2 free throws. 5-point lead. The crowd erupted. The fans went absolutely insane. The Fever were going to win. The moment was theirs. Everyone in that arena believed it. Everyone in the building knew it was over. But then something happened. Something that nobody expected. Something that changed everything. The Fever were trying to run out the clock. They were trying to hold on. They had 5 points. They had 18 seconds. How could they lose from here? But then the inbound pass went up. And it got deflected. The ball was loose. Chaos. Confusion. 5.1 seconds left. The Sky got it. Skylar Diggins had the ball. She was at the three-point line. She had to shoot it. She had to take the chance. She released it. A deep three-pointer. A desperation shot. A moment that nobody thought would matter. The ball was in the air. The gym went silent. Time seemed to stop. The shot was pure. The rotation was perfect. And it went in. Swish. Tied at 98. The regulation game was over. Overtime. This game was going to extra basketball. This game was going to be decided in the 5-minute period that separates champions from everybody else. And Caitlin Clark was about to put on a performance that would change the way people thought about basketball forever. This is the story of the night that Caitlin Clark reminded everyone why she is the most exciting player in professional basketball. This is the story of how the Indiana Fever survived one of the most dramatic comebacks in WNBA history. This is the story of how a rookie from Iowa became the center of a legacy-defining moment. This is everything that happened on Thursday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. The game started at the beginning of the evening when the Fever took the floor against the Chicago Sky. The Sky came into the game desperate. They were struggling. They were falling behind in the standings. They needed a win. They needed momentum. They needed to prove that they could compete with one of the best teams in the league. The Fever, on the other hand, came into the game confident. They were playing at home. They had Caitlin Clark. They had Aaliyah Boston. They had a team that was clicking on all cylinders. The Fever were ready to dominate. And for most of the first half, that's exactly what they did. The game started slow. Both teams were feeling each other out. Both teams were trying to establish their identity. But then something happened. Caitlin Clark got hot. She started scoring. She started creating. She started doing what she does best. She started taking over the game. In the first quarter, Clark was setting the tone. She was attacking the basket. She was making shots. She was moving without the ball. She was being aggressive. She was being assertive. The crowd could feel the energy shifting. The Sky were struggling to stay with her. The Indiana Fever were building a lead. And it was growing. By the end of the first half, the Fever had built something special. They had built a 19-point lead. 19 points. That's a dominant halftime lead. That's the kind of lead where you feel like the game is already decided. That's the kind of lead where the opposing team is looking for answers. And the Fever had it. Caitlin Clark had been spectacular in the first half. She had scored and assisted. She had made plays. She had made her teammates better. Aaliyah Boston was also playing well. Boston is the kind of player that can take over a game in the paint. She was dominating on the boards. She was scoring when the Fever needed points. She was being the steady presence that championship teams need. But here's the thing about basketball. A 19-point lead in the first half is not a guarantee of victory. It's not a promise. It's just one half of basketball. The second half is a completely different story. The second half is where teams make adjustments. It's where coaches implement new strategies. It's where players figure out how to compete. And the Chicago Sky figured out how to compete. The second half started, and the Sky came out with a completely different energy. They started playing harder. They started playing smarter. They started moving the ball. They were getting good looks. They were making shots. And slowly, the Fever's lead started to shrink. The Sky weren't just cutting into the lead. They were making it look easy. They were beating the Fever down the court. They were getting to the basket. They were making three-pointers. And the Fever were struggling to respond. The game went back and forth. The Fever would score a few points and build the lead back up. Then the Sky would answer with a run of their own. It was tense. It was competitive. It was exactly the kind of basketball that keeps fans on the edge of their seats. The Fever's 19-point lead was being eaten away. It was becoming a game. It was becoming a fight. And the Sky were proving that they belonged in this game. By the time the fourth quarter arrived, the game had completely changed. The Fever still had a lead, but it wasn't comfortable anymore. It was close. It was tight. It was the kind of game where one play changes everything. One shot determines the outcome. One moment changes the narrative. And the Sky knew it. They could feel that they had a chance. They could see that the Fever were vulnerable. They could sense that something special was about to happen. The fourth quarter was intense. There was back and forth scoring. There were possessions where the Fever scored and built the lead back up. There were possessions where the Sky responded and cut it back down. The two teams were trading baskets. They were trading momentum. But the Fever were holding on. They were holding on to their lead. They were trying to run out the clock. They were trying to survive and get out of the Gainbridge Fieldhouse with a victory. With about 19 seconds left in the fourth quarter, the score was 96-93. The Fever were up by 3. The ball was in the hands of Caitlin Clark. She was at the free throw line. The Sky had fouled her. And when you foul Caitlin Clark, she punishes you from the free throw line. Clark is the kind of shooter that makes you pay for every single foul. She is the kind of player that can score from anywhere on the court. She is the kind of athlete that performs better when the pressure is on. Clark stepped up to the free throw line. The arena went quiet. Everyone knew what was about to happen. Everyone knew that if Clark made these free throws, the game was going to be extremely difficult for the Sky to win. Everyone knew that points were about to be scored. Clark took a deep breath. She focused. She blocked out all the noise. She blocked out the crowd. She blocked out the moment. And she just shot the basketball. The first free throw was nothing but net. Swish. 97-93. Then the second free throw. Another swish. 98-93. 5-point lead with 18.9 seconds remaining. The Fever were going to win this game. Everyone in the arena believed it. Everyone watching on television believed it. Everyone except the Chicago Sky. Because the Sky still had time. They still had possessions. They still had Skylar Diggins. Diggins is one of the great shooters in the WNBA. She is the kind of player that can change a game with a single shot. She is the kind of competitor that thrives in moments like this. The Fever turned the ball over on an inbound pass. 5.1 seconds left. The Sky got the ball to Diggins. She was at the three-point line. She was well beyond the line. She was at the line that most people would say is too far to shoot from. But Diggins didn't care about distance. Diggins didn't care about percentages. Diggins didn't care about what people said was possible. Diggins just let the ball go. The shot was in the air. The gym went silent. Everyone watching held their breath. Everyone in the arena understood what was happening. If this shot went in, the game would be tied. If this shot went in, the Fever's lead would be gone. If this shot went in, the Fever would be forced to play overtime. The ball was in the air for what felt like an eternity. And then it happened. It went in. Swish. Three-pointer. Game tied at 98-98. 1.4 seconds left. The regulation game was over. Overtime. The Fever and the Sky were going to play 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes of intense, competitive basketball. 5 more minutes where anything could happen. 5 more minutes where a championship moment could be created or destroyed. The overtime period started, and the Fever came out with purpose. They knew what they had to do. They knew that they needed to execute. They knew that one bad possession could cost them the game. They knew that one mistake could be the difference between winning and losing. And they played like it. Aaliyah Boston came out and scored immediately. She made a jump shot from the free throw line to give the Fever a 106-101 lead. Kelsey Mitchell followed it up with a fast break layup. Now the Fever were up 108-101. 7-point lead. The momentum had completely shifted. The Fever were in control. They were dominating. They were making plays. But the Sky fought back. They didn't give up. They continued to compete. Sydney Taylor pulled the Sky within 3, 109-106, with 24.1 seconds remaining in overtime. The game was still not decided. The game was still on the line. But Aaliyah Boston sealed it with 2 free throws. Boston made them both. 111-106. The game was over. The Fever had won. But let's talk about what Caitlin Clark did in this game. Because what Clark accomplished on Thursday night was something special. Something historic. Something that will be talked about for years to come. Clark finished with 32 points. 32 points. She made 8 of 18 shots from the field. She made 1 of 6 three-pointers. But here's the incredible part. She made 15 of 15 free throws. Perfect from the free throw line. She also had 10 assists. Double-double. She also had 7 rebounds. She was 1 rebound away from a triple-double. She played 40 minutes. The entire game. She was on the court for every possession. She was there when the Fever needed her. She was there when the moment was biggest. She was there in the clutch. What made Clark's performance even more special was that Aaliyah Boston also had an incredible game. Boston finished with 34 points. 34. She had 12 rebounds. Double-double. Boston was the leading scorer of the game. Boston was dominant. Boston was incredible. And here's what's historic about this. Clark and Boston became the first pair of teammates in WNBA history to record 30-point double-doubles in the same game. Think about that. In the entire history of the WNBA, in decades of professional women's basketball, no 2 teammates had ever done this before. And on Thursday night, Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston made history together. This was Clark's 3rd 30-point, 10-assist game in her WNBA career. And she's already broken the record for the most of these games in WNBA history. She's only been playing professional basketball for a couple of years. She's already shattered records that took other players decades to create. She's already changed the conversation about what's possible in women's basketball. The Indiana Fever improved to 7 wins and 5 losses. They improved their Commissioner's Cup record to 3-1. They extended their winning streak over Chicago to 7 straight games. They set a new franchise record for points scored in a single game with 114 points. They had previously scored 110 against Dallas on September 15, 2024. Now they've broken that record. The Fever are a team that's clicking. They're a team that's playing excellent basketball. They're a team that has multiple scorers. They have 3 players on their roster that can take over games. Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. Mitchell also contributed significantly to this game. Mitchell scored and helped. Mitchell was part of the Big 3 that combined for 85 points. The Chicago Sky dropped to 4 wins and 9 losses. They dropped to 1-4 in the Commissioner's Cup. More importantly, they were officially eliminated from Commissioner's Cup contention. They can no longer win the competition. They can no longer make the push for the prize. They are eliminated. And it happened because of this loss. But the Sky didn't play poorly. They fought hard. They made a comeback. They tied the game with seconds remaining in regulation. They had a chance to win. They had opportunities. Skylar Diggins was excellent. She hit big shots. Natasha Cloud played well. The Sky had moments where they looked like they could win this game. But in the end, the Fever were better. The Fever executed in overtime. The Fever had two dominant scorers in Clark and Boston that the Sky simply couldn't stop. Caitlin Clark's performance on Thursday night will be remembered for years to come. This is the kind of game that defines careers. This is the kind of game that players look back on when they're old and gray and they think about their legacy. This is the kind of game that reminds you why you fell in love with basketball in the first place. Because basketball is about moments. Basketball is about clutch performances. Basketball is about players rising to the occasion when it matters most. And that's exactly what Caitlin Clark did. She shot 15 for 15 from the free throw line. That's not just good shooting. That's elite-level execution. That's the kind of free throw shooting that comes from years of practice. That comes from a commitment to excellence. That comes from an athlete that refuses to miss when the game is on the line. Clark was perfect from the free throw line. She was automatic. She was reliable. She was exactly what the Fever needed when they needed it. And she did it while playing 40 minutes of basketball. 40 minutes. The entire game. She was on the court the whole time. She was managing the game. She was facilitating for her teammates. She was scoring when she needed to score. She was getting rebounds when she needed to get rebounds. She was playing the game at such a high level that it seemed almost effortless. But it wasn't effortless. It required incredible focus. It required incredible effort. It required a player that was determined to win at any cost. The Indiana Fever are now one of the best teams in the WNBA. They have the pieces in place. They have the coaching. They have the culture. They have Caitlin Clark, who is emerging as one of the elite scorers and playmakers in the entire league. They have Aaliyah Boston, who is one of the best two-way players in basketball. They have a supporting cast that can score. And they have a head coach in Stephanie White that knows how to win. Stephanie White is a championship coach. She has been to the finals before. She knows what it takes to win games in the WNBA. What happened on Thursday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse was more than just a basketball game. It was a statement. It was the Fever telling the rest of the WNBA that they are here to compete. They are here to win. They are here to be championship contenders. They are not satisfied with just making the playoffs. They are not satisfied with just being competitive. They want to win it all. And performances like Caitlin Clark's 32-point, 10-assist game show that they have the talent to do it. The Fever will face the Connecticut Sun on Saturday. They will get back on the road. They will face another challenge. But after a game like this, after a moment like this, the Fever have to feel like they can beat anybody. They have to feel like they have the momentum. They have to feel like they have something special building. Because they do. And if Caitlin Clark continues to play at this level, if Aaliyah Boston continues to be this dominant, if Kelsey Mitchell continues to score, then the Fever are going to be a problem for every team in the WNBA. This is Caitlin Clark's world right now. She is the most exciting player in women's basketball. She is the most watched player. She is the player that people tune in to see. She is the player that makes plays that make you stand up out of your seat. She is the player that makes you believe that anything is possible. And on Thursday night, she showed why. She showed why she is the future of basketball. She showed why she is special. She showed why the Indianapolis Fever are a team that everyone should be paying attention to. 32 points. 10 assists. 7 rebounds. 40 minutes. Perfect from the free throw line. An iconic performance in a historic game. This is what Caitlin Clark did on Thursday night. This is what she accomplished. This is her legacy. And it's only the beginning.